A very good afternoon to all the listeners of the affected radio stations, and I want to also give special greetings to our 2022 Business Studies Grade 12 matric learners. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Midupi Shadrach Moi from Provincial Head Office here in Bloemfontein, and my position there is the Provincial Subject Coordinator responsible for Business Studies. Today I'm going to take the learners, and of course, if teachers are also listening and all stakeholders in education, I'm going to take them through final preparations in as far as Business Studies paper 1 is concerned. And my presentation or my lesson will focus on the following. I will touch on the documents that I actually used in preparing the lesson and documents that are also important for learners or students when they prepare themselves for writing this paper. I'll also touch on the scope of the paper, touch on the date and the structure of the paper, also focus on commonly asked questions, diagnostic report thereof, meaning questions that keep on coming and that are likely to be there in the paper, and the mistakes that normally are committed by the candidates and how to avoid committing such mistakes, because what we want now, we want a very good performance from our grade 12 learners. I'll also touch on approach to essay writing, because in business, essays, they form part of the paper, and if they can take tips as far as essay writing is concerned, that can also assist them so that they get prepared to answer as expected when they sit for examination. And then lastly, I will also conclude. I'll also touch on the conclusion for my presentation. Now, let me take you through the documents. The very first document that when I was preparing this lesson, I touched on was our CAPS. Teachers, they know that CAPS is our guiding document. So whatever we do, we must do it in line with CAPS. So even the examination paper should be January 2021. So this document also helped me when I was preparing my lesson. And it's also important for teachers to also look at that document. The second document is the 2021 examination guidelines. Teachers, they know that when they go into class in preparing learners, they also have to refer every now and then to the 2021 examination guidelines. So I used this guideline document when I was preparing this lesson. So for the examination guideline is important, it's a crucial document. The other document that I also used was the amendments to the notes. All our learners know that they have received notes from the Department of Education, and those notes have since been amended. So when you prepare yourself, take into account the amendments which were made to the notes, because amendments were made prior 2021. So those notes should be in line with the 2021 examination guideline. There are other documents that is also important that I also look at. So the 2021 November NSC paper and the May-June 2021 NSC paper. I looked at that paper. I looked at questions that were common in those two papers. I also looked at the May-June 2022 NSC paper. It's also important because is the paper that was written this year in June. I also looked at our provincial June paper, and also the that was written this year, and also trial examination papers from other provinces. So you can see I consulted quite a number of documents, but I did not go far. I touched on the 2021 and 2022 paper. So as I came on with my presentation, I'll also be making you aware of some of these, from where did I get them and how to go about answering them. Let me take you through now scope. The scope is pretty what the candidates know. They are going for paper 1 business studies. Now, in paper 1, event the 2021 examination guideline, they must be looked at, because that's where the paper is going to come from. Paper 1 focuses on 2 broad topics. The first broad topic is what we call the business environment. Our business environment, it covers the following subtopics: impact of recent legislation on business, business strategies, and business sectors and their environments. All they form one broad topic called business environment. So surely the people and business sectors. The other broad topic that is also going to be covered in this one is business operations. That is the broad topic. What do you find in the topic business operations? You find resources function and form part of business operations. So in a nutshell, the scope will be business environment and business operations, and it will include those subtopics that I have talked about. When you prepare learners or candidates for paper 1 examination, or it's going to be based on all of those topics. Let's now look at the date and the structure. You are going to write paper 1 next week, Wednesday, on the 23rd of this month. I'm not sure, should I say fortunately or unfortunately, this is going to also be an afternoon paper. You are writing at 2 o'clock. So I'm looking at this, and I take this as an opportunity. If you are writing in the afternoon, it gives you ample time to garner your to get ready and to be ready for paper that you'll be sitting for in the afternoon, unless if you've got also a paper that you are sitting for in the morning. But the afternoon, take it also as an opportunity for you now to give it, and I've got no doubt you are going to give it your best. The structure is pretty the same as the structure that paper was based on your trial examination paper, but I will repeat the structure. The paper is going to be divided into 3 sections: section A, B, and C. Section A, which is compulsory, is going to cover the following: multiple choice for 10 marks, choose the correct word for 10 marks, and matching. Your compulsory is going to on this paper, and it covers mostly level 1 and level 2 questions. And then section B, that's where you are going to have a choice to be provided questions and expected to choose 2 from the 3. because the content is very, very the examiner may either give you a question on human resources function or quality of performance. Sometimes the examiner
in the workplace improves. You see, it's a positive impact. Let's look at the negative impact. The time and money spent on improving employee skills is sometimes wasted if they leave the business. This is the negative impact. And I mean, it goes without saying that if you are running a business, you take an employee for skills development, either for workshops, or you can even, as a business, take an employee to a university. And then that employee, after qualifying, then they come and stay for a limited time in your business, then they leave. So you see, because this act is saying development of employees is important. So the impact, negative impact of this act is that as a business you would have spent money on improving the employee's skills, but when the employee now leaves for greener pastures, then it is a loss to a business. So this is a negative impact on the side of the business. So I will not read or take you through all the responses, but I was just trying to show you that the moment you see a question on impact, think of the positives and the negatives and answer accordingly. Let's move to another question, still on legislation, that is also common. This one is on compliance. And let's take this question for example. Discuss ways in which businesses can comply with the Labor Relations Act. I got this question when I looked at the previous papers. This year, 2022, May, June, NSC paper, this question was there on compliance. What is the misconception and mistakes or errors? Learners, sometimes they confuse compliance with purpose. Sometimes they even think of compliance as something that the purpose, for example, you explain what the purpose of the act is and so on. That's not what you've been asked to provide. The question wants, what is it that the business should do to comply with this act? And some of the responses that we are expecting from the candidates when answering this question will include, amongst others, like the business must allow employees to participate in union activities such as legal strikes or even elections. When the business does this, the business is actually complying with the Act, Labor Relations Act. So there are many responses. You've got content, you've got notes that you can look at this content, but don't make a mistake of providing a purpose of the Act if you are asked to discuss the compliance, ways in which the business can comply with the Act. So it's also very common. As you can see, it was there in the May-June examination. Another content on legislation is with regards to the pillars of BBBEE. It's a very common kind of question. When I looked at the trial examination, prep exam from Northwest for 2022, this question was there. Explain the implications of the following broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Act pillars for businesses. And those pillars were management control and skills development. It was there, this question. It's a common kind of a question. What are the misconceptions and errors? Candidates, when they answer this question, first of all, when they see implications, sometimes they think of impact. There's a difference between implications and impact. So when we talk of implications, we are not talking about impact. We are talking of what is now expected of the business. Sometimes learners, they also explain the meaning of the pillars instead of explaining the implications of the pillars for business. Let's take management control, for example. What are the implications? What is expected of the business? The businesses are expected, they are expected to ensure that transformation is implemented at all levels. Businesses under management control, they are expected to appoint Black people in senior executive positions or to management. You see, this is the implication of this BBBEE pillar. Let's look at skills development. Businesses, they are expected to do what? To engage Black employees in skills development initiatives. When they do that, that's what the Act requires of them. They are also expected to provide learnerships or learning programs to Black employees. So these are the implications of BBBEE Act on the following pillars. And the examiner may decide to choose whatever pillars that I am not talking about here, but I just took these two as an example. So it's a common kind of a question. Don't make a mistake that I've already touched on. Answer it accordingly. Still on business environments, Now we are done with legislation. Let's go to strategies, because strategies, they also form part of business environments. This question, very common, evaluation of business strategies. It was there in the prep examination of Gauteng, outline the steps in strategy evaluation. Because this question is common, what are the mistakes that learners or candidates normally do? Learners, they tend to confuse steps for evaluating strategies with problem-solving steps. Here you are not asked to provide problem-solving steps. You are actually asked to come up with steps when you evaluate a business strategy. Because this question is common, I'm not expecting you to commit those mistakes. I'm expecting you to answer it accordingly. Some of the responses that we expect when you answer a question such as this will include, amongst others, a business is expected to compare the expected performance with the actual performance. When you compare expected and the actual, you are doing what? You are evaluating a business strategy. The business is expected to take corrective action so that deviations may be corrected. When you do that, what are you doing? It's part of evaluating a business strategy. So these are some of the responses that we expect you to provide when you answer a question such as this. Don't make a mistake and not answer it accordingly. Still on strategies, under industrial tools, our very own Free State trial examination 2022, there was a question on industrial tools. Explain how any personal factors pose challenges to business. This question is also a common question. Don't make a mistake when you answer it. Misconception: learners tend to explain factors instead of explaining how the factors pose challenges to business. For example, let's take economic as part of personal factor, as a personal factor. Economic, how does this pose a challenge to business? Inflation or interest rates may negatively impact on business. You see, this is how this pose a challenge to business. We know inflation and interest rates will negatively impact the business. Loans may be expensive due to high interest rates. So when you provide a response such as this, you are answering the question correctly, because you are showing how this poses a challenge to business. Take technology, for example. The business may not keep up with or be aware of the latest technology. So this may pose a challenge to business because the business may not keep up with technology. Make sure that when you answer this question, you answer it correctly, you don't make a mistake, and it's a common kind of a question. Let's move on to still on strategies, still on industrial tools. This one was there on the 2022 May-June NSC paper. This one is on the application now of the industrial tool. This question explains how businesses can apply Porter's 5 forces model to analyze their position in the market. It's a high order question, and this question is also very common. Learners normally do not do well in this question. This question is about application, how the business can apply this industrial tool. What is the misconception? Learners, most of the time, they will explain the force instead of showing how it could be applied. So don't make a mistake of explaining the force. Rather, the question is about application. How can this be applied? For example, if you take a force such as bargaining power of suppliers or power of suppliers, how can the business apply this? The business can assess the power of the suppliers in influencing prices, because the more powerful the suppliers, the less control the business has over them. So you see, this is how the business can apply the force. The business can also evaluate the suppliers that deliver high quality products, as they may have power over the business. This is how you can apply this industrial tool. So don't make a mistake, answer it accordingly when you come across a question such as this next week Wednesday when you sit for your examination. Now let's move to business environments, also business sectors. Also a very common kind of question. In the past, this question has been, covering three categories. It would have challenges, it would have business environment, it would also have the control. But in this instance, I've just taken two categories. This question was there in the Eastern Cape prep paper for 2022. Let me just take you through the scenario from this question. Henny Construction, HC. Henny Construction specializes in the building of low-cost housing. The suppliers of HC do not always deliver materials on time. The recent increase in the fuel price is affecting their sales. The management of HC lacks necessary skills to run the business successfully. So that is the scenario that would have been given. Now the question would say to you, code the challenges and classify them according to business environments. For example, the first challenge there is the supplier of HC do not always deliver materials on time. And because we are talking about the supplier, when you classify the business environment, this falls under the market environment. Secondly, the recent increase in the fuel price is affecting their sales. This is macro environment. And then lastly, the management of HC lacks the necessary skills to run the business successfully. That is the micro environment. So don't make a mistake. Read the statements, interpret them accordingly, and answer. And normally in the questions such as this one, you are provided with a table. So you simply complete the table, fill in the table correctly. Make sure that you answer accordingly. And it normally counts enough marks. Don't allow yourself to lose marks such as these ones. Enough about business environments. I now want us to move to business operations. Under business and operations, we are starting with human resources. A very common kind of a question there on employment contract. It was also there on the 2022 May-June NSC paper. Discuss the legal requirements or legalities of an employment contract. Mistakes that learners do when they answer this question. They will discuss the aspect of an employment contract instead of the legal requirements or the legalities of an employment contract. Don't make such a mistake, because here we want to know what will make this legal. Some of the responses that we are expecting when you answer a question such as this will include, amongst others, the following. The employment contract may not contain any requirements that are in conflict with the basic conditions of Employment Act. So this is a legal requirement. A contract should not in any way be in conflict with the act or the law. Another example, the contract, employment contract, should include a code of conduct and code of ethics. These are some of the responses that we are expecting from you when you answer a question such as this one. Legalities or legal requirements. Don't make such a mistake. It's a common kind of a question. Still on business operations, human resources, let's look at selection process. This was there in our own FS June examination. Explain the role of the interviewer during the interview. You know, this question is so common, and the examiner always catch the learners, flat-footed, because the examiner simply plays around two words. The first word is the interviewer, the second one is the interviewee, and the other word is during, the other one is before. So the examiner will simply play around those words. Don't make a mistake of not answering accordingly. This question, for example, misconception, learners will confuse this aspect with the role of the interviewee. And here, when we talk of the interviewer, we are talking about the business. And it says during. What should the business or the employer do during the interview? The employer or the business should allocate the same amount of time to each candidate. That's one of the responses that we expect. The employer or the business should explain the purpose of the interview to the panel and the interviewee. And remember, the interviewee is the candidate, him or herself. So don't make a mistake of confusing aspects when you come to this question, and answer it accordingly. Still on human resources, the implications of legislation on HR. This question was there on the 2021 NSC paper, November paper. Explain the implications of the EEA on the human resources function. So we know those acts that will form part of implications. EEA is one of them. What are the mistakes or misconceptions normally committed by learners or candidates? They confuse implications with purpose, or sometimes they confuse implications with impact. This question is not talking about impact or even purposes. It actually wants you to now tell us what will the business be expected to do now because of this act. For example, on the EEA, the business is expected to compile employment equity plans that indicate how they will implement affirmative action. So this is the implication of this on human resources function. This is one of the responses that we would expect from candidates when they answer a question like this. Another one, the business is expected to promote equal pay for work of equal value. When the business does this, it's actually complying with the act. So you can see there that we are talking about implications of the act now on this business, and we are also talking about on HR as a content. So don't make a mistake of not answering it accordingly. Still on business operations, I'm now switching on to quality of performance. Another question that is also common, the difference. This one is now on quality concepts. It was there on the Western Cape Prep 2022 and also on the May-June 2022 NSC paper. Differentiate between quality management and quality performance. The examiner will pick any concept. I'm making an example with quality management here and quality performance, but the examiner may talk about quality control, for example, as a concept also. Now, the misconception is that learners confuse the meaning of the two. Make sure that you get the meaning correctly so that you answer accordingly. For example, when you talk of quality management, this is the process of managing all activities needed. It's a process. It's quality management needed to ensure a business produces products or services of consistently high standard. And then when you go to the performance now, the total performance of each department is measured against the specified standard. So you can get the difference between the two. Make sure that you get the correct meaning and you answer accordingly. Still on business operations under quality, this one is also common. The impact of TQM quality, TQM element on large businesses. For example, this one was there on our Prep 2022 Prep exam and even on the 2021 NSC paper. Discuss the impact of total client or customer satisfaction as a TQM element on large business. It's a high order question, but stay focused because it talks about that TQM element, the total client satisfaction. The examiner may pick on any TQM element, but for the purpose of my presentation, my focus was on total client satisfaction. And because you are talking of the impact, let me take you back because you talked about impact earlier on. Think of the positives and the negatives. Let's take the first positive. Large businesses. You see, we are talking about large businesses because the question also said TQM element on large businesses. Large businesses use market research or customer service to measure or monitor customer satisfaction. That's the positive of this TQM element on large businesses. What would the negative impact be? Employees who seldom meet customers often do not have clear idea of what will satisfy their needs because the business is large, so they seldom meet customers. So that's the negative impact. So when you answer it like this, you are indeed answering the question as expected. Another common question is on the implementation of TQM now. This question was there on our own 2022 prep paper. Discuss the impact of TQM if poorly implemented by business. And you must always underline the word poorly, because we are talking of poor implementation of TQM. It means all the responses that you are going to provide will definitely be negative. Learners give vague and incomplete answers or even positive instead of negative responses. This is the misconception and errors that learners normally do. Don't make such a mistake. Responses that we are expecting, amongst others, they would include setting unrealistic deadlines that may not be achieved. You see, because you are poorly implementing quality, you'll definitely set unrealistic deadlines, and that those deadlines will not be achieved. So it's a negative response. You can hear that. Decline in productivity because of stoppages. Bad publicity due to poor quality products supplied. Unrealistic deadlines may not be achieved. I've already touched on that. So all the responses here will be negative because the question says impact if poorly implemented. Don't make a mistake of not answering it correctly. All right. What I've touched on were some of the commonly asked topics and how to go about answering them. I did not touch on all, but those are some that are common and the mistake that you normally do as learners in answering such questions. Now I want to switch to something else, which is approach to essay writing. Definitely you are going to come across essays. This is what is expected of you when you answer our essay. Your teachers throughout, they've been talking to you about LASSO. LASSO is an acronym. L stands for layout, A stands for analysis and interpretation, S stands for synthesis, and O stands for originality. Now, when you answer an essay in business studies, you get 2 marks already. When you do what? When your essay has got introduction and conclusion, and the word introduction should be written and the word conclusion should be written. Not only written, introduction, and you should have introduction underneath that, and conclusion, have concluding statements underneath that. Then you get your 2 marks. And then analysis and interpretation. Here, we want to see if you are able to break the question down to show understanding according how the question is being asked. Now, all business studies essays will be organized in this manner. You'll be given a preamble. A preamble is that information that is like given in a box, and then thereafter you'll be given statements that are normally written in bullets, and we have normally 4 bullets. Each bullet is actually a statement, or it's actually a question. So when you break your question down according to those bullets, you get 1A. You get 1 mark for breaking the question down to show understanding. It means you can even organize it in paragraphs. You can have paragraphs for each, a paragraph or a sub, title for each question. You are breaking the question down, you get 1 mark for that. And then when we mark, when we mark you score 16 and above, you get another mark. So you get 2 marks. That's how you score your 2 marks for analysis and interpretation. And then synthesis, when we mark, we also use what we call, and we conclude that, we use what we call negative marking. We conclude that whatever you present to us, your essay is relevant, because synthesis is about relevancy or relevancy of whatever you are presenting to us. The facts that you are presenting are relevant. Now, if you present anything that was not asked, it means you are no longer relevant, you are irrelevant, and then we subtract marks for that. But if you present whatever that has been asked, you are relevant, you get your 2 marks. So if all the marks are the facts that you've presented, they are relevant, you get 2. If some of the facts are relevant, you get 1. And if all the facts are not relevant, you get 0 for synthesis. And my experience has taught me that learners, they normally get 2 marks for synthesis on this, because whatever they present is always relevant. So you've got 2 marks that you should actually do not let that 2 marks go without you grabbing them. And then the last part is originality. It's 2 marks also. Is there evidence of 1 relevant example per topic? What does that mean? It means you've got 4 bullets. I said those 4 bullets are actually questions. Now, you must have an example for first bullet and another example for second or third or fourth, but at least 2 on 2 different subtopics. And those examples must be based on recent information or even current trends and developments, not older than even 1 year. And here we are not talking about examples that are from the textbook. Here you must think out of the box and try to convince us that you are applying now. You are watching the news, you are following what is happening, and you are relating the content that you learn in class with what you actually observed or heard about, or you are following in the news and so on. So originality, learners normally don't do well, but it does not mean that learners cannot score 2 marks for originality. I've got no doubt that your teachers have taken you through even originality, how to go about tackling that. So this is what we are actually expecting from you when you answer an essay. I'm going to take you through an example of an essay so that we do it practically. I will read to you what we normally call a preamble. This is not a scenario, it's a preamble. That information that is normally given in a box and the questions thereof. The effective implementation of quality control and quality assurance enables businesses to enjoy the benefits of a good quality management system. Many businesses follow the selection procedure to find suitable candidates and invite them to attend the interview. That is the preamble. It's information. You can already tell that this essay is based on what. Now here is the question. Write an essay on quality of performance and human resources function in which you assess the following aspects. You see, you've got 4 bullets now. The first bullet says, outline the differences between quality control and quality assurance. The second bullet, discuss the benefits of a good quality management system. Thirdly, explain the steps that should be followed in the selection procedure. Lastly, advise businesses on the role of the interviewee during the interview. So you see, you've got 4 bullets. Those are 4 questions. This is what your essay is going to be based on. For you to answer an essay, you must do what we call a mind map. A mind map, you also have a mind map in your languages or even other subjects. This is no different from what we are asking you to do, because your mind map is like your rough work, your rough draft. That will help you organize your facts accordingly. So from the preamble that we read, it was clear that the essay is going to be based on quality performance and human resources function. And then the first bullet, it says to you, you must talk about quality control and quality performance, where you differentiate those 2 concepts. So that's your first paragraph. The second paragraph will be based on the benefits of a management system. Thirdly, you'll then organize your essay and address the selection procedure. Lastly, the role of the interviewee. So once you have a mind map like this, you know exactly that the first paragraph I'll talk about this, the second one, and so on, and it makes you to be relevant. And you can even have your mind map in your essay, even though you will not be awarded extra marks for your mind map, but it will help you and it will show that you have indeed taken time to plan your essay. So mind map is very important when you answer an essay. And then let me take you through the introduction and the conclusion, because I normally find candidates struggling also to come up with relevant introduction. Now, introduction, it does not mean you must just throw anything in your introduction. Make sure that when you come up with the introduction, you come up with introductory statements that link to the questions. Go back to the 4 bullets and read the bullets. I will read you the introductions statements here, and you'll realize that these introductory statements, they link with each bullet, with each question that has been asked. For example, quality control allows businesses to save money by avoiding the use of poor quality materials. It's an introductory statement, and it links with the first bullet on the question. Manufactured goods must be quality assured throughout the production cycle. You see, it links with another bullet. Every business should have quality management systems that ensure that all systems and processes are carried out correctly and safely. It's another introductory statement. It links with the bullet. The selection process enables business to identify potential candidates who will contribute significantly to the achievement of business objectives. You see, this is also linking with what? A bullet on selection procedure. The interviewee should be well conversant with the job description to be able to answer appropriately to questions. This one, it links with the last bullet of the question. So all these introductory statements, they link with the questions. No doubt you will be relevant when you come up with introduction, when you follow this example that I'm setting to you. And then conclusion. Remember, these are concluding statements. You are concluding your essay. Like we did with the introduction, even your concluding statements should link with your questions. Let's read the first concluding statement here. The correct implementation of quality control and quality assurance enables the business to keep abreast with competition in the market. You know, it is clear that it links with the first bullet or the first question in the essay, this concluding statement. And you can hear it's concluding. It is a conclusion. You are concluding your essay. A good quality management system approach helps to provide a lean process improvement. So this is also another concluding statement that links with the bullet. Selection is an important process in hiring good employees and can help increase the overall performance of the business. Another concluding statement that links with the question. The interview is a process that assists the employer to get to know their candidates better. This one, it also helps you. You know, it's a concluding statement. It links with the last statement. So conclusion and introduction, don't make a mistake of not getting them right. And you already have got 2 marks for conclusion, 2 marks for introduction in the essay. Make sure that you do as I'm advising you. And then lastly, the breakdown of marks. It's always important also just to give you a picture on this question that I've just taken you through. Introduction was allocated 2 marks. The distinction between quality control and quality assurance, 8 marks. Benefits of a good quality system, 14 marks. Steps in selection process, 14 marks. Role of interviewee during the interview, 10 marks. Conclusion, 2 marks. In total, you get 50 marks. But that 50 marks, it gets reduced to a maximum of 32. So, you know, it's an advantage to you. For example, if as a candidate, you don't have enough facts in your essay on the distinction between quality control and quality assurance, but you've got a lot on benefits of a good quality system and a lot on steps in selection process. I mean, 14, you already have got 28 marks. You've got introduction. So chances of you doing well in an essay, they are very high. Just make sure that you play by the rules and you play nicely. So make sure that when an essay comes, you can even start answering with an essay. That will assist you, to already put 40 marks in your pocket. And I've got no doubt you are going to do well. And write well, clearly on your essay. Make it easier for whoever is going to mark your work to read through your work. That will make things easier. And then remember I said it's 50 marks reduced to a maximum of 32. Then we add those marks for insight, your lasso, the 8 marks. That takes us to a total of 40 marks. Now 40 marks, that's the total for our essay. So do your best when it comes to essays. And lastly, I want to wish you the best of luck when you sit for paper 1 next week, Wednesday. And you have already started with exams. I've got no doubt you've been doing well and you are ticking. As you finish writing a particular paper, you tick it and you say it's -1. And those that are remaining, you'll continue to prepare yourself better for that. So I wish you all the best, and I want to leave you with this quotation by Anonymous. I quote, "Good things come to those who believe. Better things come to those who are patient. And best things come to those who do not give up." Close quote. So don't ever think of giving up. Before I leave you, I'm going to ask you a question that you'll have to answer. And those that are listening, when you answer it, and those that will get it right, they've got a chance to win a headband and a water bottle. The question is based on TQM. I'm going to read a statement and ask you a question. In fact, the question, it says, identify a TQM element from the statement below and motivate your answer. Here is the statement. Mega Manufacturers Limited specializes in the production of quality furniture. MML always requests their buyers to provide feedback on their purchasing experience. Those are the statements, and you've got to answer the question. You've got to identify the TQM element and motivate. That concludes my presentation, and I thank you.